Welcome back to another explainer. We're always looking to take these massive, complex documents and break them down into bite-sized, structured slides so you can actually grasp the big picture. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating document called My Name's Organization, the Multi-Lan domains. Now, this isn't just your standard technical manual. It is literally a 10-phase roadmap for building an entirely new, parallel internet infrastructure. We're going to walk through this giant blueprint step by step, zooming out to look at everything from the foundational database architecture all the way up to global government adoption. If you've ever wondered what happens if the traditional internet breaks down or gets heavily censored, well, this right here is the master plan.
Okay, let's dive into this by looking right at the core thesis of the document. The author basically argues that our modern internet is sitting on a 1980s assumption. Quote, all domain names must be approved by ICANN, written in Latin characters and resolved through DNS. This assumption is outdated, end quote. So the roadmap we're about to explore aims to completely bypass that rigid structure. It proposes a system where you can instantly buy a standalone domain in literally any language, upload an app, and have visitors jump on it immediately, with zero network configuration. It's a pretty bold vision for a sovereign infinite language registry. To help us digest this massive vision, here's our overview. We're looking at the entire ecosystem today. 1. The outdated internet paradigm. 2. The search index loophole. 3. Core system architecture. 4. Establishing policy and security. 5. Building the developer ecosystem. And finally, 6. The sovereign internet layer. Section 1. The outdated internet paradigm. Breaking the 1980s assumptions. And this brilliantly illustrates the stark contrast between traditional internet bureaucracy and this proposed dynamic new paradigm. Look at the old web. It's fundamentally constrained, right? It relies heavily on Latin text, strict approvals from centralized bodies like ICANN, and complex standard DNS resolution. But the blueprint proposes this sovereign layer that basically flips all of that on its head. It offers infinite languages, custom AI-generated extensions, and a zero-configuration deployment. You don't have to wait around for traditional web authorities to approve your exact language string anymore. Section 2. The search index loophole, bypassing the DNS registry. This leads us directly to a really crucial question. How do you bypass hidden network configurations? Just think for a second about what actually happens when you type a string of text with a totally unrecognized extension into a standard web browser. Because the browser doesn't recognize the domain through traditional DNS, it fails. And when it fails, it falls back to a default behavior, routing that text directly into a search engine. This right here is where the architectural pivot gets incredibly clever. Instead of trying to force standard DNS routing, the system actually captures that browser failure state. Here's how it works. A customer buys a custom domain, and instantly a background task triggers the Google Indexing API. The system deploys this hyper-optimized metadata shell for that exact native language string. And because this custom phrase is totally unique, there's absolutely no Web 2 competition for it, it rapidly ranks as the #1 search result. When a visitor clicks that top link, a service called Google Cloud Run instantly streams the application natively. This whole process provides what the document calls zero configuration resolution. The visitor just types the domain, the browser searches it, and boom, they instantly see a massive Launch App button at the very top of their screen. It creates this seamless illusion of a native domain. Once they click it, the app loads up as a progressive web app, and it behaves exactly like a standalone application on the user's device. Section 3. Core System Architecture. The engine powered by AI and cloud. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how this system solves the massive problem of duplication. When you're allowing domains in any language, from Arabic to Chinese, you name it, you absolutely need a universal standard of truth. And that standard is Punycode. Punycode is basically how computers translate non-Latin text into a back-end ASCII-compatible format. So by using this exact Punycode string explicitly as the document ID in a database like Firebase Firestore, the system mathematically prevents global duplication. If a second user tries to buy that exact same native name, the database simply rejects it right at the foundational level. No duplicates, period. Taking a quick look at the back-end tech stack, we get a really clear overview of how much this vision relies on cloud automation to bypass all that traditional registry bureaucracy. You've got Google AI Studio acting as the command center for code generation, then Firestore is acting as the truth ledger for validation. Cloud storage handles all the asset delivery. Google Cloud Run steps in as the router to dynamically translate and paint the apps on the screen. And finally, the indexing API serves as the discovery gateway to make that whole search loophole work seamlessly. Section 4. Establishing Policy and Security. The ICANN Equivalent Rulebook. Obviously, enterprise-grade trust is a huge deal here. The document neutrally outlines a comprehensive security framework required to protect users in a truly sovereign space. We're talking standard enterprise protections, things like web application firewalls, DDoS protection, and rate limiting. But it also includes essential features for an open upload platform, like automated malware scanning for all app assets, multi-regional failover with audit logs, and strict identity verification for high-risk domains to prevent phishing or abuse. Ultimately, it's just about making sure everyday users feel completely safe clicking these new links. Coupled directly with that security is a proposed ICANN equivalent rulebook. To function as a sovereign naming authority, you have to establish clear operational rules. The blueprint categorizes names into prohibited, reserved, and protected classes. This ensures that things like essential civic and emergency services or sensitive cultural identities aren't maliciously squatted. It also strongly emphasizes the need for clear domain ownership rights, transfer protocols, and emergency dispute resolution procedures. It's basically mirroring traditional internet governance to maintain a functioning digital society.
Section 5. Building the developer ecosystem. Scaling through APIs and SDKs.
To drive mass adoption, the blueprint argues that providing a rich developer arsenal is absolutely critical. By offering software development kits, or SDKs for major languages, whether you're working in JavaScript, Python, Swift, Kotlin, or Node.js, alongside open developer APIs, developers can programmatically check availability, register domains, manage billing, and upload apps natively. Plus, establishing an ecosystem marketplace for templates and verified plugins creates this powerful economic incentive. It really fuels an organic community of creators building directly on this new layer. Section 6. The Sovereign Internet Layer. The Path to Global Recognition. Let's move to and see how this builds towards the ultimate endgame of the roadmap. The roadmap actually outlines a specific strategy to eventually get major browser vendors on board. It starts with a grassroots approach, deploying browser extensions and mobile sovereign browser shells with offline caching that natively resolve these custom domains, effectively bypassing that search loophole altogether. As usage scales up, the strategy shifts to providing hard usage metrics and open standard documentation. This gives them the leverage to negotiate direct regional support with major browser vendors. It's very similar to how domains like .onion or ENS eventually gained wider global recognition over time. But the ultimate validator here is government integration. The blueprint details a strategy of presenting the system to digital government authorities and deeply integrating it with national identity systems and local cloud infrastructures. By offering official, natively scripted civic domains for sectors like health and justice, the system aims to transition from just a private registry into a fully recognized piece of national and eventually regional digital infrastructure. So the crucial point is the sheer scale of institutional adoption required to legitimize this parallel internet layer. The roadmap explicitly targets universities, hospitals, municipalities, ministries, and the broader private sector and startups. When major institutions across a region start adopting these native language sovereign domains, the browsers and the broader tech ecosystem are basically forced to recognize them as valid primary web addresses. And that leaves us with a really fascinating open-ended thought to ponder. As cloud automation and AI scripting continue to evolve, bypassing traditional gatekeepers is becoming easier than ever before. So we have to ask, will the Internet of tomorrow continue to be defined by legacy root registries from the 1980s? Or will it be shaped by dynamic, sovereign search algorithms and infinite language databases? It is a massive blueprint with massive implications. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning how our digital world is built.